Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Ice Control and Frostbite are very likely to be the most long-term game-warping mechanics since the introduction of Arcane damage. Changing an opponent's cost curve, even if just by one, forces them to swerve from their optimal strategy. It means they must respond by either blocking less, moving to less card-intensive strategies, going with lower value, higher pitch card ratios, or, in all likelihood, all three. The introduction of this mechanic is certain to universally impact deck building and sideboarding. The ripple effects of anti-ice includes will swerve the available tech for non-ice matchups, thus changing everyone's favorite matchups. Some strategies are likely to become unplayable. Others are considered less efficient, may become actually more favored. Heroes will be forced to adapt, and yes, some will do it better than others. A few heroes may ultimately be all but unplayable against this particular strategy. Today, I'm looking at how the previous set's heroes are impacted and how they can adapt to the new cold world. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm Andrew with you here as always, not letting the snow joke go at least for now. So in the last video of this Frostbite series, baby, it's cold outside, whatever you want to call it series, the Ice Control series, we talked about the Ice Control strategy itself, kind of how it can be very impactful, but its current challenges, which is probably a good thing. But we'll have to see how it develops over time as the smart people really kind of get the reps with it. But what I wanted to do today, in today's video, was kind of look at it from the other side, which is how do the existing heroes adapt to a control, to deal with Frostbite, right? And again, I know it's not everywhere in the meta yet, but as it gets better, it's something you have to plan for, right? How, if you build your deck and it can't deal with Frostbite tokens, you're going to have a bad day, right? So that's what I really wanted to do today. Was run through the pre-Tales of Aria classic constructed heroes, and then the video after this we'll come back and look at some of the Blitz heroes. So at the end of the last video, we kind of had a little bit of discussion about how many Frostbite tokens do you need to be disruptive, and the answer there, of course, is it depends on who the hero is. That said, I mean once you have a stack of Frostbite tokens on the table, basically nobody's going to be able to deal with that in their traditional sense, meaning not having to deviate their game plan. So that's kind of I kind of just wanted to put in perspective that really the approach tonight to when we're talking about these heroes is, for the most part, what I'm going to be referring to when I'm talking about these guys and changing their strategies is the continuous putting in play of one Frostbite token, meaning because most of the time I think that's mostly what you're going to be dealing with. If someone's consistently doing it, I think you're going to be dealing with generally one Frostbite token. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking overall is, what does, and I mean that the basic overall way to say this, maybe even from a different standpoint than is, if my cost curve changes by one higher, how does my hero have to adapt, and how do I deal with it, right? So that's more the approach. I mean, because again, obviously, if you have a wall of Frostbite tokens in front of you, it doesn't matter who you're piloting, it's going to probably stop your turn, right? So one Frostbite token, how do we deal with it? So what I'm showing right now is kind of my table of the original table I've put together of the original 12 heroes. Now we'll go through them one by one so that you don't feel you need to do it, or need to write it all down or anything like that. But I overall, I kind of the approach I'm taking here is I'm looking at three things, right? I'm looking at the kind of my overall estimated impact to these heroes, and keep in mind this is still very early, right? As we talked about in the last video, we're still very young within the meta, and I feel that the ice strategy isn't fully developed yet, right, across the board. Or the Frostbite control strategy, I should say, isn't fully developed across the board. So, these are really initial stabs, but it's kind of where I'm putting my head, right? So, for example, we have limited impact, meaning basically none, or only in certain cases. We have low impact, high impact, and then a couple of these guys I see as having pretty massive impacts. Then I also want to kind of talk about what their deck changes would do and how the strategy and play, how do they have to change their deck to deal with it? Do they just have to shift pitches? Or is there something else they can do by actually like shifting strategies or shifting the way that they play against those decks to begin with? So let's just go ahead and start out, and welcome to Wrathe. We'll just go down the list kind of. So first up, let's talk Bravo. So I think overall, Bravo is going to have pretty low impact, right? Minimal impact to Bravo. Now, that doesn't, again, he wants to pitch, in most cases, he can have one card in hand, one blue in hand, and swing Anathos. Sure, if you have a token out there, you're going to have more. But again, remember, in many cases, they're consuming resources of some sort to put that token in. So a lot of the times, I think you're not necessarily only going to have one card in hand. Because a lot of times, like Lexi, for example, many times she's going to come in and dominate you in some, if they flip over a Weave Ice or something like that, they're probably going to dominate you anyway. So you're going to have more cards in your hand, right? So I think overall, I think Bravo's not too impacted by one or maybe even two Frostbite tokens. And, to the play changes, just hammer away, baby. Just keep hammering away on them. And they're going to be playing a slower strategy. That's kind of your jam anyway. Make them pay for it. Right? Get your pummels, get your Terra Sunders, and just hammer away, baby. So yeah, I think that's pretty fair on Bravo. But we'll see. I think Bravo's in a good position. But we'll see. Katsu's an interesting beast here because the first Kodachi swing is going to cost you more. And Katsu 101, the ideal Katsu turn is pitch a blue 0 and stab, do something else, right? And does he just have to swing to, use like stab, kick or stab, whatever it may be? Does he have to focus more on stab free, right? Is what I'm calling it, where, you're still using that third, you're still pitching. Because, it's not like he can really, Katsu, it's not like he can really skew to more blues. Maybe one or two, but he's pretty heavy blue as it is, right? So it's not like he can really change his overall deck composition that much, right? So I think what he has to, in terms of pitch composition, right? So I think overall, he just kind of has to sight and board in some more of those just good stuff cards, like maybe your Exude Confidences or your Snatches and, or more zeros, right? Stuff like that, right? If you run up against, you may not be able to get all your crazy combos off against that. You may just have to go back to be frank, more of an Ira type strategy for those matchups. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking. I think Katsu probably does okay versus it, but we'll have to see. Next is Dorinthea, my girl. I think the impact of Dorinthea in this matchup is pretty high. She's going to have to shift to more blues. Because remember that what Dorinthea wants to do is she wants to pay one to pump, pay one to swing again, or pay one to react, whatever it may be, right? But she generally wants that blue pitch. And the Frostbite token is really going to limit her. So not only do I think I as a Dorinthea player, not only do I think I have to shift my expectation of basically a 9 per turn to 6 per turn, but I think, I actually prefer the front pump strategy. And I think probably I'm going to have to get better with the reacts strategy, right? Because the reacts are not as dependent, right? If you have the front pump strategy needs you to play pretty lean in order to throw it on beforehand. And I think, you can still swing, right? You can still swing. And then react over the top with whatever you have left, or use that react to pay for the frostbites, right? So I think probably she's going to see a shift from front pump to reacts, which I know a lot of people prefer that version. Anyways, like I said, I just prefer the front pump, the way I like to play, but the react strategy is perfectly valid and probably does a lot better in this type of scenario. Next we have Rhinar. So I'll be honest, right? You guys know I'm not a huge Rhinar fan. We just never really got reps with him, and because we didn't early on, we had a really hard time figuring out the extra card thing, right? That he required to discard a card. We had a really hard time with that, and we just kind of steered away from him. And he's never really been my jam. Plus, a lot of people in my play group like him, so I never really got with him. So the disclaimer here is, I don't really know what he does, but I do think the impact to him here is pretty massive. Because he runs kind of so lean as it is in terms of, we make the joke all the time that Rhinar YOLOs, right? And he does, right? I mean, Brood in general, that's kind of their thing. So are they able to deal with it? Maybe they just go, maybe they go down to more 2-cost cards if they're able to do that. Versus their bigger cards. Maybe that's their way out. But I think in a lot of cases, Rhinar's pretty card intensive, so I think he's kind of hit hard here. And then like I say in the strategy impacts note there, if you just go club Rhinar, doesn't Bravo do? You know what I mean? Like, doesn't Bravo do it better? So I mean, that's certainly my own skew there based on lack of experience versus my preference for Bravo right now. But I think that if you try to do brute things, you're in trouble, and I think if you try to do the club things, I think Bravo does it better. So I think Rhinar's got a wall ahead of him. Moving on to Dash. So, the joke around Dash is she's got other problems with the shield, but I think overall the impact to her from Frostbite's going to be minimal. She probably though has to shift her strategy in that matchup to probably more boost specific, and then maybe finish with the pistol, and maybe you're not even shooting with the pistol every turn. Again, people who have more reps with Dash than myself can chime in here, but I think that you just boost and then you pistol when you can, instead of trying to set up these, because you need a blue pitch to shoot, charge, shoot, or not charge, you know what I mean, charge, steam, whatever, charge, chamber, or shoot. So I think probably you're just relying on boost and then using your floats to charge the pistol, right, steam the pistol, whatever. So I think that's probably the strategy shift there. We'll have to see. I mean, she does make resources, but remember, you have to front pay the resources on the Frostbite. So I think that's maybe a challenge for her. Kano. So again, this is somebody I do not, disclaimer, I don't have reps with Kano. But I think based on how he works, I think he's going to have a pretty limited impact in that, he can just play on, a lot of times he can just play on their turn, right? So if what he does is play before, if they do something that's going to put a Frostbite under your control, you can actually react to that and play your stuff before Frostbite comes out, and then it basically just poofs at the end of your turn. So that's what I think will happen. But like I said, full disclaimer, I don't have the reps with Kano. So again, please, if you do, please weigh in the comments below, because I really, really do want to hear. Someone who I do have a lot of reps with, though, is Azalea. And the impact to her, I think, as you see a theme here, the impact to the guys that I like to play is pretty high. What I've been doing for Azalea is I have been shifting to more... So I was kind of doing this anyway when I saw like Overflex and stuff like that, but I think what she just needs to do is shift to more yellows. And the impact of that actually isn't as bad as you think, right? Like because she's trying to the dominate strategy, because she's trying to get stuff in, a lot of times if you're coming over, a lot of times you care more about the on-hit effects than you do actually that extra point, right? So if you come in with a yellow 1/4, it's not necessary. I mean, sure, you'd love the extra point of damage, don't get me wrong, but having, the yellow 1/4s that still have on-hit effects, I think can still accomplish a lot. So I think the dominate strategy is solid. I think trying to do what I prefer, especially with Boltyn shots, what I've been playing lately, trying to do like the multi, one soft and then one dominate. I don't think that one's going to work out as well. But I think, just trying to get something in and dominate it out for an on-hit effect, I think that works. The counter to that, though, in a lot of these cases, is probably Lexi does that better. Aside from, Seek Horizon, Interred the Ledger, I think Lexi probably does it better. So I do think the impact overall to Azalea is high here. Next is Viscerai. So this one's kind of funny because when I originally made this table, I've worked on this on a flight a couple weeks ago. When I originally made this table, I wasn't quite sure what to do with Viscerai. And then in our last Armory tournament, one of the guys was playing, David was playing Viscerai, and we saw, it was not David. David was on Rhinar, actually. Billy was on Viscerai, and we saw that his reduced to rune chance actually was circumventing a lot of the issues there, and he can play it on his turn, and the cost is reduced by rune chance. So that was kind of cool to see. So that's why I have in blue there, possibly none, right? Not none, but I think it's pretty limited because I think if you play it right on those big turns, you can reduce to rune chant. And then, the question then for him, for Viscerai, is, you've got the Sonata version, you have the OTK, Sonata and OTK, kind of grouping them together. I know they're not the same, but, Sonata and OTK versus traditional may be very different in how they play, right? I mean, Billy's deck was really, really cool. He was running Come to Fight into Arcanite Ascendancy for the Dominate with the cost reduction. Very, very awesome, because then it creates all those on the back end when it hits, and it was a super cool combo. And I think I think that one's a little harder, but because once at the point where you're building up and doing all this stuff for free anyway, because you have a bajillion and a half rune chance in, I think that's what I'm saying. So I think like the Sonata or the OTK versus like trying to do like a traditional non-attack, make rune chance, I think those play very different. So you probably have to skew more in the Frostbite match to building up more than you normally would elsewise in terms of rune chance. Going to Boltyn, my boy Boltyn. Again, like I said, all my heroes. Azalea was high. Boltyn is massive, right? So he's going to have... So Boltyn runs a lot of yellows, right? Because, again, and this is the Raiden Boltyn. Boltyn, whatever. He runs a lot of yellows, right? Because generally he needs like a 1 for he needs 1 for a take flight, 1 for a battlefield blitz, and 1 for a raid. I know that's not the only play there, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, or a valiant thrust or whatever. A lot of times he only needs a 2, so like I play a lot of yellows in there. That's still pretty lean, right? It's kind of the same problem-ish that we saw with Dorinthea. Is, you're pretty lean. Dorinthea needs the blues, he needs the yellow. So I think he's going to have to skew to more blues. The zero drop charges, charge facilitators like your Bolt of Courage, and what's the other one? Engulfing Light. Those ones are going to help you here, right? Because they're doing what you need to do, and they can help you charge and still throw something out. I do think, the answer there on, what I say there, Sabers might be superior to the Raiden builds. There's a lot of people probably screaming at the screen. They're like, well, no, it already was. Fair enough. Because a lot of times on that one, you are, you're kind of doing an upfront pitch anyway to try and do your, the hands, the Gallantry Gold. A lot of times you're feeding that anyway. So, like, if you, have to pay an extra 1 or maybe even extra 2, you can probably still do your turn, right? And that's assuming that they're able to poop out stuff on the turn that you want to do it, right? While you've been, kind of playing around and getting your combo ready to go. Their timing has to be right for the Sabers to disrupt your Sabers thing, and B, unless they get a bunch of them out, it might be probably as minimally impactful to you. So I think that's because it's only one, it's only the first one, right? So if they only have 1 out there, probably it's minimal impact to you on Sabers. But trying to play, like I said, a Raiden, and the reason and again, this is skewed for me. I prefer the Raiden build. I just like to play the Raiden build. I think Raiden build might be unplayable. Sabers, I just made the case for Sabers. It might be minimal on Sabers, so you just have to figure it out and adapt. So Levia here. This one's interesting. I don't know what she does because I don't know what she can do. Now, to be fair, she has a fair amount of 2-drop attack cards that let her do what she wants to do. So, like I said, honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know how bad she's impacted, and I don't know what she does about it, right? So in both cases, I don't know, right? And So let me know what you guys think. I think the impact to her is pretty massive though, right? Because she runs pretty lean as it is. I mean, it's kind of the brute problem, but she's almost worse because if she doesn't get what she needs out, then she can take the blood debt. So, but again, I'm not sure what else you do because she's pretty limited in terms of what she has available, right? So, you don't want to be ghostly impacting every turn, right? You want to be, or not, is it not ghostly impact, ghostly visit. You don't want to be ghostly visiting every turn, right? You want to be doing your thing, right? But so I don't know. We'll have to see how that develops. Adam's a very, very good. Adam in my meta is a very, very good player with Levia, and we'll have to talk to him and see what he thinks on that one. Next is Chane. So this guy, I mean, Chane. I don't really know where he lies anyway right now without seeds. I mean, that's kind of an. And I think he kind of has the Levia problem, right? Of like, there's probably not much else Chane can do, right? Like he just kind of has to like decrease, just probably has to overpitch. And I mean, he runs a fair amount of, prior to seeds, and I would assume that's not going to change. He runs a fair number of blue pitches to try and get his stuff off anyway. So I think he just kind of keeps calm and chains on. I mean, I think the impacts are high because it probably costs him an extra card per turn overall. And then if that card's stuck in your or in your banish zone, then you're blood deading, right? So I think he has pretty high pitch, or excuse me, I think he has pretty high impact. But again, overall, like, I think he had problems to deal with anyway. So we'll see where people evolve the new deck. I mean, I've been playing around just in theory crafting with him on basically doing like a low blood debt Rosetta Thorn deck. But then, it's another one of those, like, doesn't somebody else do it better? And like most of the builds that I come up with trying to like do cool stuff and then just using his Soul Shackle sparingly to give your Vexing Malice. I really like the Vexing Malice, was it Vexing Malice, Arcanic Crackle, and then Singeing Steelblade. I really like that cycle of cards. They're kind of cool if you can Nimbleism into something like that. And then, the problem with those is they don't have natural go against unless you're Mabry and Skyzing them. But again, it's kind of like that. I mean, at that point, like, doesn't Briar do it better with all her elemental and rune or arcanic damage pring? So anyway, that's maybe a whole different cast, but I do think the impact there is pretty high. And again, remember, if it's the same problem of Levia, is if they get stranded, they really take a huge penalty for it. So yeah, I think the impact to them, especially, again, so the focus on this was always like one rune chant or one frostbite. But if they can pull off like a 3 or 4 frostbite turn, and he just like banishes a bunch of blood debt. But like I said, there's not a lot you can do about it, I think, so keep calm and chain on, baby. All right, last but certainly not least is Prism. So I've been getting some reps with Prism lately, I played her early, and then I went to Boltyn, and then I went back to Thea, and you know how it goes. But I've been kind of getting reps with Prism again. She's an interesting beast, right? Because, for obvious reasons with Luminaris, which I still think that card's potentially busted, but it is what it is. So I think that has a pretty high impact, but most of that impact I think can be built around or played around. She's going to have to shift to a higher blue pitch composition. There's really no question about that there. And I think that with that shift comes less with that shift, you're going to have less reliance on yellows. And, Aura Kodachi's probably becomes your thing here, I would think. Now, do remember that in the case of like Winter's Wail, for example, if you do have some of your auras out, it's actually, and it like, so if like, say they're coming in for 4, we learned this recently, say they're coming in for 4, you block 3, but you have 1 aura out, 1 of her spectral shields out, it will not have been considered hit because it takes that, right? So I don't know that that's logical to me, but that's the ruling. So do remember that in that case you wouldn't create a Frostbite token. But either way, right, looking at her overall and how she deals with essentially a 1 cost curve, you're going to have to go to more blues, but then you're decreasing your prevalence of go again. But then again, on a lot of her turns, she's trying to do like the big turn anyway with like the tome and stuff, or she's going the oral strategy. So I think the impact to her is high, but like I said, I think the majority of that can be absorbed in your deck building and your sideboarding choices. I do think, though, and this is applicable for all the heroes, but probably more so in Prism, that as you change your sideboarding choices, it leaves you less flexibility towards the other matchups. So, like a lot of people are running Snag on sideboards. Prism runs Raging Onslaught and stuff like that for the mirror. You just run out of room if you're skewing, and so you have to make some very intelligent choices on what you do. And she's going to end up having to skew to a higher pitch curve, which could potentially leave you without a yellow for go again. I mean, it could happen, right, depending on how you do your build. So I think that's where a lot of the skill is going to come. Obviously, with all of the heroes, you're going to have to build your deck right. I mean, that's gaming 101. I get it, but I think a lot of these guys can. I've got the main table up now. Prism, I think, is mostly handled in the deck building. I think, your Katsu, for example, there's nothing you can really do different on the deck building, so you just kind of have to skew your play style, and so on, right, for all these guys. So that's really my take today. I know we've been at it for kind of there's a lot of heroes to run through. So I think that's really where we stand overall. I mean, I'd really like to hear what you guys think as well. Like, there's several heroes on here I just don't have the reps with, and hey, I mean, that's the way it works. Not everybody can know everything, especially when it comes to all these different heroes. So I'd love to hear you guys' feedback, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and so on. Anyway, yeah, so thanks for joining me today. Like I said, I will be coming back in another video later, third part in this, to kind of look at the Blitz heroes, and I'll even come back and hit some of these OG heroes from a Blitz focused standpoint. At least that's the goal. And we'll look at how that changes. Obviously, Blitz is very different with the combo wombo-y, and slowing down combo wombo-y is kind of what Frostbite does, at least for the turn. So anyway, that'll do it today. I do want to remind everybody about Gacha Game. So our schedule has changed, and I'm putting that up right now, and it's good news. So one, we were able to get some more, or not we, Derek was able to get Gacha some more first edition boxes for Tales of Aria, and he set some of those aside. He hid them so that we could use them for a draft, which I think is really cool. So we're finally gonna get our draft in, and then also we got a skirmish on November 20th. So we're the two schedule changes there accordingly. But hey, come out and join us. It's a great time, and we can socially distance fist bump. Also want to remind everybody, go check out Fab Foundry for all of your singles needs. Recently had a sale, and a lot of the Dice Commando guys picked stuff up, which was really cool. It was a two-year 20% sale. Now that's over, of course, but he does stuff like that all the time. So make sure you're checking out the site, and when you do, go via the link below, and you help me out as well. So anyway, that will do it for the Frostbite. Again, thanks for dealing with the joke, but like I said, I'm having fun with it, and that's what we're here to do, right? So anyway, thank you very much, folks. Let me know, in all seriousness, let me know what you guys are thinking. I want to hear your feedback, and let's chat about it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today, folks. See you on the next video, and if nothing else, go Commando.